Enduring this race won't be the only challenge. The drivers have to endure some difficult weather if they want to come out on top today. Try your best to stay dry and warm as we get ready for the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America. I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Atterbury. Joey, give us the lowdown on Sonoma here for round two.
Well, it has been a wet weekend here at Sonoma, and you can see the amount of precipitation that is currently down on the racetrack, and it has been a slippery weekend as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at the track map of where exactly we are just north of the San Francisco Bay Area in Sonoma, California. It is a 12-turn facility about 2.5 miles long, and it starts off with a steep uphill climb all the way through turn number 1, and it continues the uphill climb to the top of the hill at turn number 3A. After that turn, it plunges downhill through the carousel. That's turn 6, leads into our best passing opportunity, turn number 7 at the left end of the drag strip. Turn number 8, the S, is my favorite section of the racetrack. You got to stay on top of it there and not get behind through those set of corners. Turn number 9 is the chicane on the far side of the racetrack, and then turn number 11 wraps up the hairpin here.
As you can see, the field already pacing around, so let's go through our starting order for today, starting with the GT3 Cup cars. Blake McGovern is on the pole for his 240 team. Brandon Hankins will be starting second next to him. Peter Ludwig begins from P3. The 278 of Charles Espinlaub will be fourth, and also pole for the AMs. Roberto Totino will start from 5th. He'll be flanked by Chris Hutter in 6th. Matt Dusek in the 251 car starting 7th, is joined by Andy Child in the 202 starting 8th. Sean McCaig in 9th. And then Dan Ammon rounds out your 10 GT3 Cup car field. Joey, what about our Cayman field?
Yeah, we still have those two classes in the Caymans, the Pro-Am and the AM. It is led up by Greg Checky, your overall pole sitter in those Caymans. In second place is going to be the Nerds machine of Bill Pelichewski, sharing row number 1 with them. And then comes our Cayman AM pole sitter, Todd Ratura, in the number 59. Dan Drowan's going to be starting in 4th overall in that group. Greg Herback is going to be starting in 5th overall. And then Justin Lewis is going to wrap up our 6 Cayman GT4 cars here in the Endurance Challenge.
Watch out for Drowan, because he would have been on pole, but he brought out a red flag in his qualifying session, and he lost his 2 fastest times. So he's going to have to push through a few cars that might be off the pace compared to him. But the track has been drying up. That said, we keep getting chucked down on as soon as we say that the track is drying up. So keep your eye on the weather, and hopefully it'll behave a little bit for once in this 1 hour and 40-minute race. Out of turn 11 now, our GT3 Cup field will take the green here as they're being led by Blake McGovern there on the left-hand side. They wait for the call, and there it is. Green flag is out. We accelerate towards turn 1. Very good start for the field, but it's going to be a single file run for McGovern as he manages to get in front coming up to turn 2, although a little bit of a look inside from Hankins. Behind it is very 2x2 up through the rest of the field.
And there's that red and black HM road racing car. Charles Espinlaub has actually moved up a spot but maintains that class position, and now we wait patiently here as the field comes up over turn number 3A for our Cayman start, and we have got a green flag here on the front straightaway. Greg Checky takes that whole shot from the inside position, but he is challenged from Bill Pelichewski on the outside. He's going to stick tough all the way up into turn number 2, and we've got a new leader. If he can hang on up here at turn number 2, takes a wide line, and Pelichewski is out front.
Great job by Pelichewski. We got a car in the GT3 Cups that is off in turn 6. Looks like they have avoided the wall and kept going, trying to make out who is lost position. It looks like it is Hankins.
It is Brandon Hankins. So unfortunate. He has had so much track time in these mixed weather conditions, and it just caught him out a little bit going into the carousel for the first time. So what was the second place drops him all the way down to last in GT3 Cup.
This is an unfortunate beginning, but it is a long race. He's got time to try to get back in it. Now he's just got a lot of work to do for that as we watch the 221 come down with a bit of a defensive line into the chicane, the 231. Whoa! And Chris Hutter goes deep. So does the 251. Both of them having to take through the chicane. And that bright orange 251 spins. Dusek, unfortunately, turned around.
Thankfully, though, I did not see any contact between all of the cars out there, so hopefully Dusek can just grab that gear, get it back out onto the racetrack, and continue on. But lots of track position slipping down through the order for a few of these cars.
There's one for Hankins. Now he's just got about 8 more to go to get up to the front. Meanwhile, our leader in the Caymans just spun right in front of Greg Checky, and Bill Pelichewski's also facing the wrong way. There we see it now. And hopefully the car can get going because he went sideways through that giant puddle.
That was a moment there, and you see Pelichewski, he was the one that was leading the field down and just got into turn number 9 a little bit hot. Thankfully, Greg Checky and the rest of the Cayman field were able to take avoiding action, but it's almost like deja vu in the Cayman class, like what we saw in the GT3s.
Really is. I tell you what, Checky also got just a face full of mud out of that. In fact, he's going to lose the lead. And Todd Rutura, who is the leader of the AMs, leads the overall in the Caymans now.
Yeah, he has jumped up to the overall lead, and you had mentioned the other car in the Cayman class to watch out for. That was Dan Drowan. He has already moved up from his spot all the way up to 3rd overall, 2nd in class, as we get some shots here of Charles Espenlaub chasing down Peter Ludwig. These are 2 different cars and classes, and therefore they're not going to be getting the championship points for the pass, but you do want to get out front just from the visibility aspect.
Ludwig going to be sharing the car with Dave Musial Jr., and then Espenlaub is going to be swapping out that 278 with Henry Marshall a little bit later on in this race. We turn our attention now to the Caymans, being led, as we said, by Todd Rutura, who took his first win in Sprint Challenge, in fact, in the overall in that Cayman race, despite running in the Masters.
Great opportunity for Todd, and I think that he's going to really enjoy coming back to Sonoma Raceway after this weekend, of course, claiming his first class win in Sprint Challenge North America in that series a little bit earlier this weekend, and now he's out front here in the Endurance Challenge. I can report that Brandon Hankins is making up time hand over fist. He's already up inside the top 6.
And I want to correct myself that Rutura raced in Pro-Am in that class, although he's gone deep as well, and he just goes through the mud. And now Checky is going to gain a little bit of time from that one, and so will Drowan. He'll get out the other side. We've got a replay, it sounds like, of lap 1. And this was down into that chicane. Yeah, look at that. Both cars went quite deep. And thankfully, Greg was able to emerge from that one. But we can tell that first lap going there in anger, it's still difficult to tell the grip.
And, it seemed like they all overshot. It wasn't just the Caymans, but a lot of those cars in the GT3 Cups overshot turn number 9. We saw Dusek turned around. So I think these drivers were maybe a little bit anxious not having the precipitation coming out of the clouds at the beginning of this race and said, hey, we're going for it.
Not only is Drowan in that 3rd spot, but he's near our leader in the Pro-Ams right now, Greg Checky. So that's his main concern, getting that class lead. But then I'm sure he would love to chase down Rutura. And as we can see on the screens, it is not a big gap. So, yes, he had some issues in that qualifying, but as we've seen, Dan has really made himself known as very comfortable in wet conditions.
He certainly seems like he's very, like you said, comfortable with the car moving around underneath him, and that's exactly what happens when you have this rain-soaked racetrack, is that sometimes the front end doesn't want to bite like how you want it to. When you roll on the throttle, all of a sudden, the 500 horsepower spins up those rear wheels. I can say that directly out of our commentary booth, one of the GT3 Cup cars just went through the turn 9 chicane area straight through.
Yeah, I think that may have been Childs in the 202. Yeah, we're getting info. And he's already cut the course once and had a lap invalidated. So I'm not sure if there's any sort of limit that if he does that too many times, if race control will send him to pit lane for a further penalty. But I do know he has already had a couple excursions at the least. Meanwhile, Returning to a few of our cars that have had some adventures around this track. This is Dusek versus Hutter. Now, Dusek is in the AMs, while Hutter is in the Pro-Am, so this is not for position, and Hutter does not look like he wants to be very patient about getting by.
He is trying to kind of put as much pressure as possible on the back of Dusek, and a little bit more of a rain line out of that orange 251. The other car's going to sneak down to the inside, and I think he's going to accelerate his way up into turn number 3 and move Dusek down. Chris Hutter up.
I think Matt saw the writing on that one. Knows that isn't his fight. He needs to focus on catching up to Dan Ammon, who is the next car ahead of Hutter. If he feels like Hutter has a few tricks up his sleeve about how to find speed, he could be paying attention here to try and pick up the pace and run down that 268 car. We're 8 minutes into this race, and we've already had some significant dramas.
I don't think it's over yet, Joe. We still have 90 minutes out there on the clock, and we still have a giant question mark over what weather is going to be coming at us over the next 90 minutes or so. Right now, the drivers are just going to take advantage of the consistent track conditions, albeit drying a little bit as they continue to run on the racing line.
This is the 281 leading, the 234 rather, leading the 268. That's McCaig over Ammon again, Pro-Am versus Am. And they would like to stay probably as they are if you're Sean McCaig, but Dan Ammon wants to get farther away from Dusek. So if he can manage to overtake that 234, he's going to give it a shot. Just didn't get the great exit coming out of turn 9 this time, so we'll have to try again later.
See about the run through turn number 11 here. See if maybe one car rolls the corner a little bit better. Oh, a little bit wide out there, and that provides a little bit of a run coming down the front straightaway section. How many times, though, Joe, have we seen through this turn number 12 on the front straightaway that these cars are actually lifting up out of the gas? And I think I just saw Dan Drowan run straight through the turn 9 chicane as well, just like how we saw the 202 do it just a couple laps ago.
Ooh, he's got to be careful of that. Oh, look at this. Dan Ammon with a great run coming down to turn 3. Unusually, that seems to have been a passing spot in this race so far.
I think it's just a matter of getting the power down up and over the hill from turn number 2. And you had made the comment about that maybe during one of the comments or during one of the Cayman races as well, is that some of these cars seem to launch up out of the corners while some of them are trying to roll the speed up and over, and there is an acceleration difference out of it.
Yeah, and it's curious seeing the two different strengths out there because, I mean, this is single make. Yes, we've got the Caymans and the GT3 Cups, but theoretically all the cars should be equal, but I guess all things are not equal out there. While Dan Ammon goes quite deep into the corner. Meanwhile, we've come back to Greg Checky versus Dan Drowan. This is the battle for the lead in the Pro-Am Caymans. Checky started this one from pole, lost that lead momentarily to Bill Pelichewski, survived splashdown through the turn 9 chicane, but is now having to play heavy defense.
Well, thankfully, Artemis landed out in the ocean rather than in the turn 9 mud pit that we got.
Practically could.
Oh, my goodness, and that's Todd Ratura. Todd Ratura slow on the drag strip section going to turn number 7, so that gives the lead over to Dan Drowan, who had just passed Greg Checky. I don't know what's happened to the number 59, but he is slow on track.
And we had a Radicals race before this that saw a lot of electrical issues because of how wet it has been. That said, these drivers have not been out in the rain this afternoon because it hasn't been raining since we started. It's just a wet track that they began on. So a bit curious to see him suddenly have that problem, and he's come to a halt.
And I have a feeling this will probably bring out a full course yellow if the car cannot get refired. Now, we did not see what happened with this car. It was just slow on the straightaway when we were kind of focused on Dan Drowan and Greg Checky. And I mean, hats off to Dan Drowan. Just a single lap ago, he was going straight through the turn 9 chicane area in 3rd place. And here he is going to walk away with the Cayman Pro-Am lead right now.
Yeah, Justin Lewis now promoted up because of that. And interesting to note that this wouldn't be the first time if Ratura could come back from this, because earlier this year at Sebring, he got penalized for too many crew members over the wall, lost the lead, and then fought his way back to it.
And I'm just seeing something else on timing and scoring here. that some of these cars are kind of jumping up and down the order. I see Brandon Hankins dropping back down the order on timing and scoring, so just trying to be patient on everything sorting out through the timing loops. But that was a car that had a little bit of trouble early on and then was able to recover. Another big-time shout-out to the driver of that 240. That's Blake McGovern. Remember, he was our overall pole sitter, and he's actually ran away 8.5 seconds over anybody.
I mean, he was continually resetting the fastest lap out there. So, yeah, he was looking very good. And we saw that as well, that he was very fast in the qualifying session, too. Just got pipped to that by Brandon Hankins.
And speaking of Brandon Hankins, that was the driver that I was mentioning. Now, he is rolling again. I think there is a problem in sector number 1 for Brandon Hankins this lap because it was well off the pace. And here's Todd Ratura. He's trying to get the thing as far out of the way as possible, not to affect anybody else's race. But the problem is he's still kind of on the racetrack out there, and the car is going to be sitting there.
This is such a shame for him, but we return to the battle between the likes of Drowan and Chicane. Drowan now up to the lead, and now we've got a full course yellow just as Greg tries to keep himself out of that puddle for the second time in this race. Not surprised that they feel the need to go and recover that vehicle.
And this is on board with Charles Espenlaub here in the 278 as we start to get our field back collected underneath the safety car. And I think that Todd was doing the right thing, right? He's trying to get the car far enough out of the way. It's just so unfortunate that there is no break in the wall to keep it green flag racing. I actually wonder if he was bumping it on the starter because it didn't seem to have any power. And so I really want to give him credit for trying to do that, trying to be avoiding everybody. But unfortunately, we do have to go get that car.
Interesting note that you made about Brandon Hankins there, because that completely resets him down to 10th position. And he'll once again have to try and play catch-up. But this full course yellow does give him a chance to bunch everybody up ahead of him, maybe have a little bit easier time trying to re-attack. Of course, his first time going back down the order was because of a mistake in turn 6 on, I believe, the first lap, actually. And this time, we are not sure what exactly befell him. You said it was the first sector this time, though, right?
Yeah, I saw him, sector number 1, have a 1:09 sector number 1 time, and then it did pop up, obviously, with sector 2, and I'm watching his onboard right now. He is on track, so it must have been a lazy spin somewhere, and then just trying to recover the car back on track is my guess.
Some of these drivers do have quite a bit of experience out here. Peter Ludwig, who's currently sitting in that second spot, I mean, he's actually done his own fair share of endurance racing. He's been in the 24 Hours of Spa before, has also run in the American Le Mans Series when that still existed, as well as IMSA and World Challenge races previously. Also has run in Carrera Cup. So he's been around the block a few times. He currently holds the fastest lap, interestingly, over Blake McGovern.
Now, that is a little bit of an interesting point that you just kind of made about the fastest lap going to Peter Ludwig. Now, you had mentioned that Blake during qualifying was just setting purple, fast lap, fast lap, fast lap. But if there was one car that was trying to challenge him through the middle of that qualifying session, it was that 231 of Peter Ludwig, and then it was also Brandon Hankins at the very end.
Yeah, all three of them were definitely tight up at the top to try and take that pole. But as we've mentioned before, it's an endurance race, so the pole is only more meaningful in the sense of getting the one bonus point that you do in this series. You'll have plenty of time to try and catch back up. But we ride on board with Blake McGovern, our overall leader right now, just kind of taking his time. Now, if, and this is a big if, Joey, if we stay dry, if we don't get more rain, I'm curious what's going to happen with the strategy calls for the driver changes. Because when you get in, do you take the opportunity to switch to dry tires? Who is willing to take that risk?
As of right now, right? If you were to put a pro in the car, that would be a very difficult call. I think that if you're going to do a driver swap, you might as well change the tires as well, Now, we don't have any precipitation physically falling on the race circuit right now. However, if you go offline, right, it's still wet. So it's still very, very slippery if you are offline. And I mean, how many cars do we go sliding through turn number 9 in the first handful of laps? It actually looks like they're going to take our field straight through turn number 9. There were some safety vehicles kind of blocking the racetrack there for a little bit, but that's why they're going through the bundles. Joe, I'd put dries in my pro in if you're going to do something like that. It's still too early for anything, though.
Yeah, they are not within the pit window. We have to remember that they do have a minimum time of 50 minutes for the AM driver, and the easy way to know that when they're going to open up is that you can split this race into two 50-minute segments. So they made it nice and simple for us and for you. But for those who are new to this series, they have a minimum pit stop time of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So the drivers won't be able to really gain an advantage per se in having any sort of quicker pit stop unless you go over that minimum time. But the strategy call of when you take that pit stop could play a factor depending on, as we've said, the conditions or just what kind of traffic you're in out there.
I think that's the biggest thing with endurance racing is that sometimes the traffic works with you, right? And sometimes you just get held up constantly from the traffic. If you're a faster class car, you always seem to catch a slower class car in the wrong areas. And if you're in that slower class, you always feel like you have to look in the rearview mirror in case somebody is diving down the inside of one of these big brake zones. So that's something to always keep an eye on. And it's always a revolving door, too. You never know what you're going to get the next lap.
This is a real shame to see since Todd was looking like that 59 was pretty quick. He was going to share that with Reggie Tartaglione this weekend. But unless they get that car fixed within the next hour and 21 minutes, it's probably not going to be able to get back out on track because it's certainly not going up onto the flatbed under its own power. This is on board with Dan Drowan, the number 98, currently up at the front of our Caymans. Greg Checky behind. Greg Herback sits in third. And Bill Pilichewski, he kind of needed that yellow because he fell a long ways back with that spin in turn 9. Speaking of which, one of the reasons they went through that cut through, Joey, I was noticing they had some cleaning cars that you mentioned that were on the racing line. They brought them back, and I saw brooms out. I think they are trying their best to clean that up.
It's a mud pit. I think that a pig would have a wonderful time down there in turn number 9 right now, rolling around in a bunch of the mud. Yeah, I see him out with the sweepers right now, just trying to push all of that, call it debris and dirt and mud and water back onto the non-racing surface, up and over the curb. Just got to wait for the field to go through and splash it back out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's gonna happen all over again. But they want to try and get it clean for at least a little bit of it. Yeah, you're right. With us being so close to Hippie Central, I have a feeling this looks more like Woodstock there down at that corner than it does a racetrack right now. But these drivers, I think I've broken Joey with that comment. These drivers are once again going to cut through just to avoid all the dirt that has been kicked up in that corner.
So they continue the track drying process out there. You see the line of workers sweeping the water back off of the racetrack and onto the muddy patch over there on the inside of what is turn number 9. I believe they've got the 59 already recovered, so it's just a matter of making sure that the racetrack is suitable for us to go back green flag racing.
We stay under the full course yellow for yet another lap around, but at least we do still have all 10 of our GT3 Cup cars racing. Sadly, we've lost one of our 6 in the Caymans, making it now potentially a solo race for Justin Lewis to come around and try to get his second victory for the weekend. He managed to get one a little bit earlier in Sprint Challenge.
Yeah, that's in the U.S. West race for the Cayman class. I think that Justin did a fantastic job a little bit earlier in the weekend, and you got to talk with him a little bit after the race, Joe, that he had a pretty big gap. and he was kind of maintaining it to the end. It got pretty close, and he got a little nervous there towards the end.
He did, yeah. He said he could feel it, and I'd say he made me proud out there, the way he kept his composure. We have gotten word that the lights are out on the safety car, so we are going green this next time by, and we're seeing just hints of blue sky up there off towards the mountains, so that's a good sign.
That is a good sign. We've had little spurts of sunshine poking through the clouds every now and then here in Sonoma throughout the weekend, but generally the theme of it has been off and on showers. And I mean, if you look at the racetrack from those overhead shots, on the drag strip still completely wet and sheened over, but here on our side of the racetrack, when we get these cars running on it, these Yokohama tires get up to temperature, and those rain tires start really pumping out that standing water that's been sitting on the racetrack, and it will continue to get drier and drier, essentially like a big vacuum machine.
So Blake McGovern and Peter Ludwig starting at the front for the Pro-Ams. They're going to be fighting hard for that lead, but Charlie Espenlaub, he's got 2 cars between himself and second in his class. He probably mostly just wants to maintain. He doesn't need to fight those cars around him, but he doesn't want to lose too much. If Roberto Tutino or Andy Child manage to overtake, then suddenly Ammon is right there. So we'll see what he tries.
And something I'm noticing is that none of these cars are scrubbing their tires. And that tells me that they feel that the track surface is on the drier side, right? Because they're on those wet tires and they don't want to induce any unnecessary wear and heat.
One of the things that is unique about this track as well is that they don't use lawnmowers. Those are their lawnmowers. The sheep that are a regular staple, they tend to move them around from day to day. Today, I can't quite tell what corner they're in, but
I think that one's Chester, and there's Billy, and then I think Colby is over there as well. He's the one right in the middle.
Looks like we're going to come back green now, so enough sheep watching as McGovern is going to lead away up into turn 2. Ludwig goes with him, but doesn't have enough of a start that he can challenge into that first corner. In the meantime, there is Espenlaub in the red, white, and black. He's kind of on his lonesome. We got a bit of a battle with Hutter and Ammon down into turn 2, but they'll stay in position.
Mostly sticking on the drying racing line here. And it is still Blake McGovern, like you were saying, out front right now. Peter Ludwig in second, and then Charles Espenlaub. He's that third car in line in that red and black HM road racing machine. But remember, he's in the different class, so he's actually leading his class third overall.
Yeah, it's been fantastic for him so far. And coming back down around the turn 6 carousel onto the drag strip. Great exit by McGovern. He puts himself a handy 0.8 of a second away from Peter Ludwig in this early restart. Look at some of the puddles that still seep across the track there on the entry to turn 7. That'll be interesting as we check in with Dan Drowan versus Greg Checky.
I'm curious to see. Oh, huge slide from Greg Checky going through turn number 7, the first part of it, but he collects it up. Can't say that's the first time we've seen that 72 go very, very sideways on the racetrack, and Greg Checky with his fast hands is able to collect the car with some beautiful car control. And then this is Greg Herback continuing to hold off Bill Pelichewski just behind that battle of Checky and Drowan. Oh, and I see Chris Hutter literally pushing a car. I think he was pushing Child through turn number 10 right there.
Yeah, just up ahead of this. Unfortunately, not going to be able to get through that time was Pelichewski. Coming back to Checky versus Drowan. When they change drivers, this is going to be an interesting battle because Taylor Van Overbeek will be hopping in for Drowan, whereas Anna Checky will be hopping in for Greg, and Taylor actually coaches Anna. So they've got... she'll have some things probably to pick up if she's going to be chasing him down. But regardless, we'll see once we get to that point. For now, it is still Greg behind Dan Drowan up into turn 2.
It was really fun to have Taylor in the booth with us. Oh, and Dan goes really wide at the top of turn 2. He hands the lead over to Greg Checky, just maybe an overshoot going up the hill on the brake zone, and it left the apex wide open. That was all that Greg needed to take the spot.
There's parts of this track that are looking very, very dry now at this stage, and seeing Dan go that wide, I kind of wonder if those who have been a little bit kinder to their tires are starting to find more success.
I'm right there on board with you, and I think that we're going to see a lot of these drivers start to search for the moisture on the racetrack, not to overheat those tires. Now, this is Brandon Hankins right on the back of Sean McCaig, the battle for what is 6th place in class for these cars. And, a car was very, very wide directly in front of him. I think that was Dan Ammon, maybe a little bit of an overshoot in 7.
Exactly that, or he is trying to go through that puddle, like you said, get some moisture on the tires. But that's good news for Hankins because that's 2 cars close in front of him. He does have Dusek right there behind in the orange machine. So he's going to go for the move coming down into the chicane, and he is past. There's another one down.
Confidence building for Brandon Hankins out there, just making passes like he's done all weekend long. Next up on the list is going to be Dan Ammon directly in front of him, so he's going to try to continue to work his way back up. It almost seems like he's done this once already, this race.
Right. So I don't think he wants to do it a third time. We'll see. If he can keep it a little bit farther up towards the front once he gets some more of these passes done. Dan Ammon in that AM class. Not going to be for points. It's Child that he wants to try and catch up to next.
Come up the hill here. This is the top of turn number 2 where we see some varying lines right now. Some of these cars still in the middle of the racetrack. Some of them still on the outside of the racetrack. And you have to trust your driver on where they feel that grip level is and use their eyeballs out the front of that windshield to pick the dry line or drying line and just absolutely send it around this very, very slippery Sonoma racetrack.
One thing about Andy that we should mention, he's the driver that probably is a little bit more used to these sorts of conditions because he's actually come over here to race Porsches from New Zealand. He's done a little bit of racing down there in their various regional series. But between the sheep and, I suppose, all these rainy days, he's probably feeling right at home.
Well, and remember, we kind of missed out on him in qualifying, right? He was just kind of one of these sneaky cars that was in the middle of the field for the majority of qualifying, and then he jumped up to what was at the top 4 or so in terms of the wet conditions out there. Probably another one of these cars just to keep an eye on because definitely has some speed in the pocket.
So that is Child chasing on Hutter. Hutter in the yellow machine. That's Child in the 202. But he's not able to get close enough this time down into the chicane. So they come out of turn 10. And yeah, there's just maybe too much distance between them to see a fight start to break out for now.
And I did see that Sean McCaig just had a little bit of a slip-up in turn number 9, so Dusek is crawling all over the back end as Chris Hutter struggled to put the power down coming out of what was turn number 11 there. So that gives the 202, that white and red car, a run up the front straightaway here, but Chris Hutter seems to have recollected it all.
This is the battle for 4th in the Pro-Ams between these two. Up and over turn 6. It sounds like they've got a good handle that time, so nobody going too wide, although there's a little bit of mud on the outside of turn 2. They don't want to go too far out if they wind up overshooting.
And while we watch this, actually, this is exactly what I was thinking about coming to. This is Greg Checky and Dan Drowan. Oh, and this time it's Greg getting a little bit loose up at the top of the hill at turn number 2. Remember, it was Drowan, that car, that white and blue car that's giving chase, that had the mistake in that exact same spot, which allowed Greg Checky to overtake for that lead in Cayman. And now Dan wants the spot back.
He's putting the pressure on, but can't seem to find his way by, at least for the time being. Getting close to about an hour left to go on this one.
And I'm also seeing that Bill Pelichewski, remember, he was the car that overtook for the lead on the initial lap of the Caymans, has caught up to the back end of Greg Herback. They're about 5 seconds behind this battle, but I expect that number 62 Nerds machine to be able to work his way up the order and maybe even try to chase down our 2 leaders that we're watching.
Meanwhile, I think we're looking at Dusek and McCaig once again. This is the battle for 9th in the overall GT3 Cup cars. In fact, he's looking quite vulnerable. Here comes Dusek down to the inside, coming to the braking of turn 9. He keeps it on the pavement, which has been battle number 1 in that corner today, and he's going to take the spot.
I think that was a heads-up racing move from Dusek. It was the lap prior that McKay had a little bit of trouble in turn number 9, and what better area of the racetrack to attack than if somebody feels a little bit vulnerable in that corner.
So I noticed that Ludwig was getting kind of close to McGovern for our overall lead, but McGovern just set the fastest lap of anybody out there. Look at the view from Pelichowski.
This is from lap 1, by the way.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I don't think they typically have, like, the wind.
Oh, no.
Drowan's in the wall. That's at turn 11. He's facing the wrong way. He has clearly found his way all the way to the outside. How hard did he hit is the question. The car is moving. Herback and Pelichowski both have overtaken him. So now Pelichowski back onto the podium. Oh, man. Things were looking so good for Drowan, but it's just starting to unravel.
Talk about a crazy...
And he's off again. This time a big wreck into turn 2 as he firmly embeds it into the tires. He tries to get it going. He's already been stuck in qualifying. The car is struggling to find traction on the slippery grass, and he is able to get it going. But that was a pretty significant smash.
Oh my goodness, just a complete roller coaster of a day from Dan Drowan. I mean, you had brought it up, the red flag in qualifying a little bit earlier after he had taken the class pole position, and now it seems to be unraveling in the race.
And unfortunately for him, it's too early to be within the pit window for him to hand over to Taylor. So he's going to have to go on for at least another 17 minutes or be forced to pit a second time if he has damage that needs to be repaired. It's just not looking good for him. But I was about to say before that, when we were watching on board with Pelichowski, is typically in endurance racing, you do have the window cleaners, but I don't think that's something they've often tried to have here in this series.
Well, and you know, obviously he is okay with seeing out the windshield. Otherwise, I feel like during that full course yellow, that could have been an opportunity for him to bring it down pit road and just plain and simple grab a tear off or have the crew clean off that windshield. But evidently the driver is okay with it.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, he has made his way back up into third and might even get second because that's Herback directly in front of him that we're watching him try to challenge here through turn 11. And coming down back towards the start-finish line. If he gets a good enough run, he could maybe try and pressure him into 2, but he looks a little far away from my experience. You've got to be right beside that car coming up into that right-hander.
Yeah, we continue to watch Pelichowski on the back of Herback here. I was trying to find what exactly happened with Drowan and Checky down there and see if it was just a single-car deal or if it was 2 cars as Herback continues to climb up the hill here at turn number 3. Bill Pelichowski doing everything that he can to just try to stay as close as possible. And I can tell you that I think Dan just overshot turn number 11.
It almost looked like he caught a little bit of water that he wasn't expecting. It sounds like we could show that replay and give you the driver's perspective. No, this is the secondary incident. So this is up into turn 2. The rear came around, and you are going so fast up that hill that there was no stopping it, especially once he reached the grass. I mean, drivers often say, Joey, that once you get to the grass in a spin and it's wet, it almost feels like the car accelerates.
It really does. It really does feel like it accelerates through there. And he tried to force it up around the outside of Greg Checky, so you're right. I think it might have been a little bit more wet than what he was thinking. And then just getting back on the racetrack and whatnot, just trying to probably do a little bit too much too early. It's tough. It is such a tough position when a mistake happens like that and then it just kind of compounds. But something I'm noticing on the racetrack, I think that Greg Herback is actually catching Greg Checky out front.
Ooh, did not expect that. I believe Herback might be one of the drivers that is soloing this race, which you are allowed to do. I believe it adds a bit of time into the pit stops, if I remember the rules correctly, but we are not watching that right now. We're watching and Hankins dipped his wheels into the wetness, the puddle, I would say, to the outside. Did a great job keeping it from going completely off into la-la land there at turn 4. But he was working on passing Dan Ammon, but has lost a little bit of time. You got to be careful. There is still some wet spots that can catch you out.
I have a feeling that the drivers are getting very confident in the drying racing line out here. And as soon as you step off of that drying line, the grip goes away, right? And that includes passing opportunities and whatnot out there on the racetrack. We're going to get another replay here from onboard, I believe, Dan Drowan. What started this all, there's Greg Checky on the right side. This is going into 11 and just too far outside into that wet stuff that we were talking about, the not dry line. And all of a sudden he grabs a gear, and then we saw what happened up at turn number 2.
And interestingly, it looked like I don't think he actually hit the wall in that first incident.
I think he did. However, the bigger one was the turn 2.
Yes, absolutely. Just was kind of curious. Wonder if it was some of the tires just getting overworked there by the time he got it back going once again. Meanwhile, yeah, I mean, Herback doing a fantastic job. We know that Pelichewski's fast, and Greg is not allowed him by. And like you said, last lap, Herback 2:01.7. Now, he was slightly slower than Checky, but that's only 0.04 of a second.
And the previous lap, he was about 1.5 seconds faster than Greg. So it also could be that maybe Greg had a little bit of an oopsie on one of the laps and is now recollecting everything himself. I think that this lap will be another good kind of test to see where it's going on. And I wonder if Pelichewski giving the pressure to the back of Herback is just kind of gave him the giddy up, right? The hurry up to say, hey, we need to get a move on. And all of a sudden, we're catching our overall leader.
Well, it's swapped back and forth between the Gregs on who's quicker on those first 2 sectors. And now we'll get the overall as they cross the line. Checky with a 2:01.456. Herback with a 2:01.428. He is matching him.
And what did you say? It was 0.04 the lap before?
Yeah.
And it was 0.03 of a second difference.
Wow.
It doesn't get much closer than that.
I think, I almost feel like he needs to ask Bill, you should run behind me more often because I'm driving way better with you pushing me.
Well, and I'm sure Bill is happy with the pace, right? As long as they're making progress on that number 72 car that's in front of them. Now, they're not getting read the sector times or the competitor lap times. However, every time you come up to turn 7, you've got the visual reference of where that 72 is. Every time you come up to turn number 9, you've got that visual reference, and you see if he's extending the gap or if you're reeling him in.
Now, Charlie Espinlaub has just brought it into pit lane. He is in the AM class, we have to remember, so they are allowed to pit earlier since they don't have a restriction in quite the same way. He's going to lose overall position, but as he hands off to Henry Marshall, again, we questioned, is this worth changing the tires? And as he hit that point, is that what this strategy call is about?
And it's going to be tricky on those dry tires. If you absolutely stick to the racing line, you'll be okay. However, it will take a couple laps to get everything up to temperature, everything up to maximum grip levels on those dry tires, and you have to be extremely careful on those first couple of laps doing that.
Dusek is also pitting, so that moves Dan Ammon to the lead of the AMs currently. He's the only one out on track in that field right now. Currently sits 6th of all the GT3 Cup cars. But he will owe us a pit stop a little bit later, and that will sort itself out most likely. I think, well, we don't know for sure if there is a change of wet to dry tires out there, but we will watch the lap times like a hawk and try and give you some confirmation on whether or not somebody has suddenly gone massively faster.
And you had mentioned Charles Espinlaub. I think that Matt Dusek also came in and is doing that same exact pit strategy. And I believe that I'm repeating Joe Peak's words out here. But, both of those cars came in and basically doing that pit stop.
Yep, he's managed to get back out. Now, Charlie should have handed that car over to Marshall, as I mentioned. Dusek, in the meantime, he has got Charlie Hayes. Charlie's been a very exciting figure to watch racing in this endurance challenge every time he shows up, especially when we saw him racing back at Sebring. As we come back to what is kind of a road in front of Bill Pelichewski.
Yeah, you can't really see much out of this windshield, and I have a feeling that when they do their service, they are going to take the opportunity to clean this windshield and make sure it is visible to see it. I wonder if he's being patient also behind Herback, just maybe because of this situation.
Yeah, Herback could, I wonder if Herback is offering reference points for him. Because maybe that's the problem. He can hardly see detail. He's got a vague idea.
Just that little rain light. Just follow that little rain light.
Exactly. And we're hearing that both Dusek and Marshall both put on dries. So interesting news. And they're still on their outlap, so we're not going to really be able to tell the difference in times. For now, as Chris Hutter and Andy Child nearly go side by side through the carousel.
That was an interesting viewpoint that gave us two shots of two different lines right there. Hutter way out on the traditional rain line, but was really able to get on the gas, while Andy Child was down the inside trying to minimize the radius, minimize the distance around the corner. This is passing Justin Lewis. You're the leader of the AM Cayman class. They were able to get by him with no problems at all, and now it's the sprint down to what is turn number 9. But this has been a battle that has kind of been developing the last handful of laps here. I do feel that Andy Child is starting to put more and more pressure on Chris Hutter.
Dan Ammon has also taken his pit stop, and in the meantime, Espenlaub, I saw he had 2 purple sectors, but I still don't know if it's not the fastest lap of the race.
And here's the interesting thing, because the driver ID still shows Espenlaub in the car.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they only pitted for those tires and not a driver change, while the other car did put Charlie Hayes in.
That would be strange, though, because like I said, remember that 50-minute limit is for the AMs and the Pro-Am, and it's a different story when it's an AM team. So,
and I'm just thinking, if it's extremely tricky conditions, if they are worried about the performance level of putting the dry tires on a semi-dry racetrack, they want to have Espenlaub in the car.
That's true. And I take back what I said earlier. It was 2 purple sectors, but I think that was the outlap, and he was about 9 seconds slower only. So, by that theory, I'm pretty sure that Charlie Espenlaub is about to take the fastest lap of the race. He set a personal best in Sector 1 and a purple Sector 2. And now I'm seeing Charlie Hayes is a purple Sector 3. That's the second time we have seen Child get to the inside of turn 6, but not able to complete the pass.
Yeah, but he's much closer going down into turn number 7. Chris Hutter right in the middle of the road here to try to build a defensive posture. So he keeps Andy Child behind. And Joe, to your point, purple Charles Espenlaub, 3+ seconds faster than anybody else on the racetrack.
Exactly. Peter Ludwig had the purple fastest lap last time, interestingly, on the wet tires, but it was a 50.2 compared to what you said with that 47.8 from Charlie. Wow. This has turned it upside down. If you are in the AM category, it's worth, well, all 3 of them have pitted, at least up there. I think we're waiting on Justin Lewis to pit since he's the only AM in the Caymans. But now, I think if you are in the Pro-Ams, you're looking at that and saying, the second we are within that window, we gotta come in and change the tires.
In 100% agreement with you. And, while we're watching this very close battle on the racetrack, I do want to report that Peter Ludwig has been continuing to turn faster laps than our overall leader, Blake McGovern. The last time from Blake was a 51.1, while Ludwig put down a 50.4, about 0.6 of a second faster than our overall leader. So still about 1.3 seconds of a gap between them, but it is starting to shrink.
Further comparison, Charlie's first sector compared to Peter's first sector on this latest lap was 2 seconds faster.
Yeah.
In a sector.
Yeah. I mean, that goes to show you how fast a dry tire is in comparison to a rain tire. I mean, we had a perfect example of it in our Cayman Sprint Challenge race yesterday. The wet tires were roughly, about 10 seconds slower in dry conditions in comparison.
Roberto Tutino, though, looks like he's also picking up the pace. He set his personal best, sitting there 3rd in the Pro-Ams. We continue to follow this battle between Hutter and Child. This is for 4th in the Cup Pro-Ams. But another fastest lap of the race for Espinlaub, 1:44.5. I have a feeling we might see an AmCar
100%.
leading after the pit stops.
Because he is turning so many fast laps right now. He's basically logging laps that are 3, 4, and even 5 seconds faster than the rest of the field, while they are still on the rain tires and have to be on those tires for at least another handful of minutes before they can come in and change them out. I do want to say that Charlie Hayes, after putting on those dry tires as well, is matching Charles Espinlaub's pace, 1:45 from him.
So I questioned your theory about them keeping Charlie in the car, and we still don't know for sure because it could still be a timing issue. That said, and I know you're glaring at me for questioning you, the drivers, I mean, Charlie is so fast right now, even with the extra stop, he might still come out ahead or at least near Charlie Hayes and Owen Trinkler.
Are you testing me to do commentator math? Because that's not going to work out.
Hey.
We're just going to have to watch how it plays out.
Well, one thing I can question you on is math, honestly. But watching these two, they have not separated. I know we haven't been talking about this battle on screen as much, but it's been kind of a stalemate between them. I have found that move down, coming into turn 6 here soon, from Andy quite fascinating, because each time he's done it, he's gotten there. It's just that shallow line does not give him the grip.
Ooh, and he's actually more replicating Hutter. It's actually kind of a combination of both. They're both more on the middle line coming down through the carousel. So I think here's the two-edged sword, is that with these rain tires that the cars are currently on with a drying track, they might try to go a little bit wide, search for some of that moisture on the racetrack, because it's not necessarily a detriment to them in some of these sections of the racetrack. However, it is still up to that driver to say, hey, what's the best line through here? Is it the wide line? Is it the middle line? Is it the normal racing line? And they still have to feel that out.
We are 52 minutes left to go. Remember, at the 50-minute mark, that is when the Pro-Am teams should be able to come in and swap out, and we're expecting pretty much all of them to zip in at the soonest opportunity, just because of what we're seeing on the few cars on dry tires now, absolutely blitzing through the field.
And, I mean, we have another new purple lap from Owen Trinkler, another great pro and coach out there, a 1:43.3. Now, he's sitting all the way down in 15th place overall, but it just goes to show you, when you put those dry tires on, there is instant speed. And I think this is Charlie Hayes coming up around. This is Brandon Hankins. Now, this is not for position because Charlie is a lap down from that earlier pit stop, but you can just see the performance difference between the cars.
I always find it fascinating that we've got Trinkler and Espinlaub in the AM class, but that's because I believe it's because of their age, correct? That they are considered bronzes.
I believe so. You know, I'll have to ask them. They were two good buddies. I loved duking it out with them on the racetrack back in the day, and they are true classic pros. Look at how fast this car is on dry tires with Charlie Hayes in it.
Charlie is flying right now, but I'm curious how far back he is from Espinlaub, because again, if Charles has to pit a second time, he's going to lose a ton out there, at least 2.5 minutes. And actually, now that I think about it, I wonder,
he's about 36 seconds behind the next car in class, which would be Charles Espinlaub.
Okay. Now, one thing that I just realized, if Espinlaub only took tires, I don't think they have the minimum pit stop time. I'm trying to,
I cannot answer that one for you for sure, yes or no. But that would be an interesting one for sure if basically they can get in and out of pit road, because they're not doing fuel service, they're not doing driver service, they're essentially just swapping equipment on the car to those dry tires.
Yeah, we'll see if we can ask around and find that one out. This is our overall leader, Blake McGovern, in that 240. He's going to be handing over to Dan Clark.
And if you notice something on our clock right here, it is going to be about 50 minutes remaining. So we're coming up to that halfway point. And Joe, you were the one that was mentioning that drive time. You need to put in 50 minutes of drive time before you can come in and basically do that driver swap, put more fuel in the car. And then here's the other strategy aspect to it all, is that if you've made it this far on fuel, it will have no problems making it all the way to the end, because you've already made it halfway.
Good point. And Dan Drowan is in. Now we know he's had some woes here Hopefully there's not too much damage on the car that they've got to repair during this stop. Thankfully, they do have that minimum time to help soak some of that up if they can get things banged back into place. But Herback remains in second. We haven't covered that. Pelichowski's still stuck behind him in third, and Checky leads down in those Caymans. But we are watching the car of Ludwig here in second in the 231. He remains at about 1.6 seconds behind, so he's within visual distance of Blake McGovern, but I don't think we've seen him much closer than this.
He got down to about 1.2, but you're right. I mean, that's a couple more car lengths up the road, and now we get both of them entering pit road. That 50-minute clock is over, so they are going to come in, get their full service of fuel, put on dry tires, and put the co-driver in the car.
Sean McCaig also pitted in from farther back since he was at the right part of the track to take advantage. As here we go, Charlie Hayes has got Andy Child trying to defend, but the wet tires versus the dry don't look like they'll be all that effective. He covers the inside, tries to cut back around him. No, great job by the JTR car, although coming off the corner, look at the difference in grip.
Just able to put the power down and out-accelerate an identical car. That is the difference between wet and dry tires, and all of a sudden, pit lane is the busiest place on the racetrack. Everybody who hasn't hit it is on it right now.
It is Charlie Espinlaw, Brandon Hankins, Charlie Hayes, and Owen Trinkler, the only drivers that are out on track right now. 5 of our 16 starters. Everybody else is in pit lane. You're right, it is busy as the dickens.
I mean, you have to. If you are not on the dry tires, you are losing time. So as soon as you can possibly get into pit road, you need to hit it. And the only bad thing about it is because it's so busy, some of these stalls are pretty packed close into each other. You got to make sure that you are unobstructed going in and unobstructed going out.
I can see Bill Pelichowski's car, but it's moving as they're trying to refuel it. Is that a safety concern at all, or is that something that is...
No, I wouldn't worry about the car being moved while it's being plugged in, just to make sure that it's inside the box.
Gotcha. And they were also changing the drivers, but now you can see they changed tires as well. One of the rules in this series, you cannot change tires and refuel at the same time. In fact, going up on the jacks, I saw Blake McGovern's car getting replaced. And yes, indeed, Espinlaub is leading now because of everybody pitting in.
I see brand new sticker tires going on that 240. That was Blake McGovern, our overall leader when they hit pit road. I am anxiously watching where Charles Espinlaub is because I see Charlie Hayes accelerating down to where is turn number 11. Who is going to win the race off of pit road because everybody is still refueling and changing equipment.
Yeah, you saw that was the 234 of Dumoulin now in the car. That was taking off, but it looks like Dan Clark is going to come out first, I believe.
And you know what? I was watching Charlie Hayes to see where Espinlaub was, but Joe, I mean, Charles Espinlaub 30 seconds ahead of the field right now.
Musial Jr. only now coming out, so Dan Clark has got a pretty good gap. I'm not sure why it was so much slower for the Musials in that 231. But he's cost himself some time he's going to have to make up. And again, Espinlaub, with his big gap up at the front, he does need to come in and hand this over to Henry Marshall at some point in this race.
I still see the 202 taking fuel. That is the fueler on top of the hood of that red and white number 202. Remember, Andy Child was driving that car, and Brandon Hankins is slowed up trying to get around the back of the 202. That's going to cost him a little bit of time.
So this is on board with Musial, who now emerges in 5th place, but he's in 2nd in class. So he'll have a lot to try and catch up at this stage. Also, Davis got in for the 62, but I'm kind of curious if they did clean that windshield because I didn't see anybody initially doing so.
And we have a race on the racetrack right now for a top position because Charlie Hayes has caught up to the back of Clark. And remember, that 240 was our overall leader when they hit pit road. Charlie Hayes had come in a couple laps prior, put on those dry tires, and now he is right back on the bumper at turn number 11.
So this is for 2nd, although Charlie Hayes in the AMs versus Clark in the Pro-Ams. And as they go by, they are so close. Charlie Hayes is practically pushing Dan Clark through the corner. We're on board, though, with the 295 coming down as we switch on over to that battle up into turn 2.
And this is the battle for what is second place overall. Charlie Hayes in that bright orange number 251, giving chase to Clark in that 240. They're going to have to deal with a little bit of lap traffic there. And oh my goodness, Joe, you were reading something off for Charlie Hayes.
So, as he just slips underneath down at turn 4 as quick as you like, this might get a little bit difficult for him because their pit stop is under review. Now, often, if they're reviewing your pit stop, there is something that is black and white, and you are going to be penalized.
And, you know, it's interesting because that car did a pit stop a handful of laps prior to everybody else. I'm sure he's going to super send it down the inside of what is turn number 7 because he has the most confidence on the racetrack with warm Yokohama tires setting some of the fastest laps currently.
Sweet. Watch them weave through the S's. I've been getting some information on the way the rules will work, and I'll read this for you. They all have to do a 2-minute 30 pit stop times at least once. After that, it's open. So I don't know if you have to do that one first before the others, but I would assume that the 270 car or 278 car still has an opportunity to change theirs. Here's where it's also interesting. Bronze driver has to be 50-minute minimum. Maximum for everybody is 60 minutes. So Espinlaub is still within that window, and I believe since he's gone down pit lane once, that gives him a little bit more time because the pit lane does not count towards your drive time.
So that'll be a little bit of an interesting strategical fact there, and we'll see if Espinlaub decides to maybe push that envelope or kind of stay well within the rules. Now, Joe, if you were to ask me, what would I rather have, a potential penalty or one more lap with my driver in the car? I think I'd be bringing it down pit road just to be safe.
I'm with you on that one. There's no reason to throw it away trying to push things, especially since your strategy has already done so well for you. We also have some penalties. Pit stop infringement, post-race time penalty for the 251. That is Charlie Hayes. All it says is pit stop infringement. We don't know if that was for a time or too many members over the wall. It's car 75, same penalty, same deal.
And car 75, that is Justin Lewis in that Cayman AM class.
So that's kind of
out
academic,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a wish-wash down there for that one, but it will affect Charlie Hayes. Now, the reason why I mention it is because Owen Trinkler is the next car in class behind Charlie Hayes, and he's only about 7.5 seconds back. I am curious, though, when Charles Espinlaub is going to hit this pit lane again and do his driver swap. I mean, he's only got about, call it 90 seconds to do the job.
Down through that chicane, almost having to thread the needle between the mud on one side and the other. They're at the second apex. Ooh, he's going defensive. Clark likes the looks of it. There's that big river still going across the track. With these dry tires, they're going to have to be so careful coming into the braking, and he's not able to do it this time. Another factor we haven't mentioned, Andy Lee, Daniel Morad, and Jared Thomas are all in for their co-drivers. They were 3 of the fastest drivers back at Sebring, and they're coming from 6th, 7th, and 8th on the field, so we could see some fireworks.
This number 240, though, is on a mission, poking it up the inside of what was Charlie Hayes there in turn number 3, but promptly gets the door shut right in his face. And I was going to say, this was an interesting flip-flop of performance, right? Because when the 240 came out of pit road, Charlie Hayes was already on the hot tires, right? He had already been on it for 2, 3, maybe 4 laps at that point. And now ever since Clark has been able to build that tire temperature, the performance has swung back towards the 240.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's got the fresher rubber underneath him, so clearly as he flashes his lights, he feels like he's got more pace than this AM driver. Remember, not for class position. He clips the inside curb, slides a little bit, keeps it underneath him, down through the second apex of turn 7. They're giving each other space, and again, a little slide. This time, though, from Charlie Hayes. Now they're leaning on one another. Got down through the S's, and somehow they come out the other side, but it's getting physical now.
That was some great racecraft to watch because Charlie Hayes was not taking any of it, and Clark thought that he was up alongside in order to make it too wide through the S's and said, you know what, this is not a good idea in these varying conditions, slips right back behind that orange 251.
That car behind them is Dumoulin, and that is a lapped car, so that's not for position, but it does look like LP Dumoulin is a bit quick compared to them, especially when they go too wide down through the S's that way.
And I do see that Espenlaub is on pit road as well, so he has got about a minute and 30-second lead on the entire field. Joe, if they did the 2-minute 30-second stop already, they're in good shape. If they didn't, it's going to drop them out behind everybody.
That's a good point. Now, as we ride on board with Clark, once again, he would be promoted up to second overall. He is already our leader in the Pro-Am category. He's trying to keep ahead of Dave Musial Jr., who is currently sitting behind Owen Trinkler, who is part of the AM. So there is some separation here between our first and second in the Pro-Ams.
And, I mean, our timing and scoring is lit up like a Christmas tree right now. I mean, purple for Morad out there, 140.1, fastest car on the racetrack. But, I mean, green, almost, call it 90% of the cars right now setting their personal best, fastest laps.
It's happy hour. I think they're enjoying themselves right now, still pushing every inch of the way. Clark versus Hayes, with Hayes holding the advantage and really unwilling to give up that track position. Another big flash of the lights, a look down the inside of turn 9, just nothing doing.
And now here comes our real question as these two are battling it out. Where is Charles Espenlaub on pit road? Who is going to come out with the overall lead? Because right now it's still in the hands of the 278. However, we see Charlie Hayes down here at turn number 11. He is going to be on the gas at full speed. I think it's actually going to go to the 251.
And as we watch on board there briefly, yep, they are going to go past Espenlaub, who's still showing in pit lane. When Trinkler goes by, he will fall to third in the AM category. Oh, up and over turn 2. Look at him. He is just climbing all over the back of that machine, but still can't find a way by. Now, we've been joined up in the booth by Volker Holtzmeyer from Porsche Motorsport. And Volker, first of all, welcome. You've come across a very exciting race today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. The weather makes it very interesting this weekend.
It's definitely opened it up strategically here. Now, you've been heavily involved, obviously, with Sprint Challenge, with Carrera Cup as well out there. And these are series that sees a lot of drivers graduate up to that. Do you like what you're seeing with this current batch?
Yeah, of course. At one point, it's hard to see people go, but also it's part of the sport, and especially part of Porsche Motorsport, that some people enter Sprint Challenge and then they leave to SRO or they go to IMSA, some go to Carrera Cup, develop from there. That's part of our business, especially with the juniors. If there's, they're drivers, they have to develop themselves. Even if they graduate from Carrera Cup and see an opportunity with another brand, we're happy to see that because we are a developing platform.
Well, and we've seen this platform for a while with Porsche. We've talked a lot on our broadcasts about the ladder system that you've built. What's the ultimate goal with that? What is Porsche trying to do?
What we're trying to do is, of course, to get a big motorsport landscape created where you can start from a road car and go the way up to Le Mans. But especially in the US, we did a lot of groundwork, and as we had GT Track Day here, for example, that you can join with your road car and just get a little bit of a feel about what racing is looking like, what the racetrack looks like, and also show that it's accessible. You don't have to be an 18-year-old athlete to go racing, that other people are joining racing as well. It's a big network we are creating.
And we've seen some of those drivers in the Masters program graduate up to Carrera Cup as well. But talk about not just within the Porsche single-make ladder, but you've had some drivers graduate up to IMSA and SRO. What are some of the names that you want to show off from there?
Especially this year, we had quite an inflow into GT3R racing in SRO, which was great to see. Because I think that's, if you want to go GT3 racing, SRO is the logical next step in the US before you go crazy and want to join IMSA. for example, Therese Lelou or Michael Clark went from Sprint Challenge up to GT3R racing in SRO.
That's fantastic stuff, and it always is encouraging to me to see those names crop up after getting to call them at these races. Endurance Challenges is one of the newer features as well. How do you deem the success of this so far? Because this has definitely introduced a new factor to that whole ecosystem, like you said.
Yeah, the US was always an endurance race sport, so the idea was born like, why can't you get your feet wet in endurance racing within the one-make environment? There the idea was born. And then we started with a one-off in Coda, did a 6-hour with 3 drivers. The next season we changed to 2 drivers, different times, length of the race. I think now we settled in with this 100-minute race and have a 4-hour at the end. We're still figuring it out, but I think we're doing well.
And I have to admit, I do like this 100-minute format that we've been using this season. So far, it's given us 1.5 really good races. We're still finishing the second one, but it's already been stunning. And I guess the last question is, how excited are the drivers? Have you talked to any of them about getting to try the 992.2 next season? Because we've been using that in Carrera Cup, but it's got to wait one more year before we see it down here in Sprint and Endurance Challenge.
Feedback so far is very good. I mean, it's not a completely new car, but it seems to be the feedback we got was that the 992.1, it's hard to pass anybody, because if you follow, you're in dirty air, you ruin your tires. So the front aero, the louvers being integrated seems to be helps to follow closely, and that makes overtaking easier, if you can call it easy. and that feedback is very good, because that's what we wanted to achieve. And then so far so good.
And lastly, I also want to ask you about something that you touched on briefly. You mentioned the junior program and also the female racing program. Have you felt like that you've seen some great success? Do you feel like you guys have been getting what you've wanted out of those?
Yeah, especially this year, our female drivers diverted out from one-make racing into GT4 America with SRO and then GT World Challenge, which is great to see. As said, we want to help them wherever they go racing with Porsche. But especially this year, it's very interesting to see them out of one-make racing, competing against other brands with other drivers. So we're following this. It's a very interesting move, and then hopefully, of course, we have to find new drivers as well.
Speaking of interesting moves, we've been watching this battle on screen for the overall win. This is Charlie Hayes in the orange car and Dan Clark in the green, white, and orange. And poor Dan, who is in the Pro-Ams, he really wants by. Got any advice for how he should make that move as he takes another look here at turn 7? It looks like he actually might get it done. He doesn't need your advice, as he is now our overall leader. That was a long time coming. But yeah, there's another instance of the great racing we've been seeing here in Endurance Challenge.
Yeah, I think the driver combinations of coach and to be coached is just a nice element which just showcases now in racing the networking within the paddock. And then you see Carrera Cup coaches racing in Sprint Challenge and Endurance Challenge. It's great to see.
Well, is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd love to chat about here? Because it's been a joy having you up here in the booth.
No, I think the whole team, I mean, this was a big pull. I think everybody arrived on Tuesday. So behind the scenes, the work started on Tuesday. So it was a long weekend. And yeah, next up Long Beach next week. So that will be exciting as well with Carrera Cup and IMSA WeatherTech.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been fantastic. And that was Volker Holzmeier from Porsche Motorsports joining us up here in the booth.
It was awesome to have Volker up here, and something that has happened on the racetrack as well. We were making the comment of Clark going by Charlie Hayes, but it's also been Owen Trinkler in that 268 has caught up to the back of Charlie Hayes. Now, they have had that 234 car separating them. That's Dumoulin out there. But so right now, our picture on screen is that orange car of Charlie Hayes, and then Dumoulin, and then Owen Trinkler as they get by. I believe that's Justin Lewis in the Cayman.
That's the 98. That's actually Van Overbeek, who's just kind of trying to stay out of the way. He's about 22 seconds behind Anichecki right now. I mean, we've touched so much on these GT3 Cups. We haven't really caught up with what's going on down in these Pro-Am Caymans. Andrew Davis up at the front ahead of Checky.
And it's become very interesting because it was totally the battle between Clark and Hayes, right? And it certainly seemed like Charlie Hayes was doing a great job hanging on to it, but man, ever since that 240 got a clean windshield, he has escaped down the road, and you got to wonder how urgent Owen Trinkler wants to get by that other car that is, call it, not for position because it is a lap down right now. Our leader's on lap number 34, while Dumoulin in that middle car right behind that bright orange machine is on lap 33.
I want to watch to see what the lap times look like for Dan Clark. Another personal best, a 41.1. Musial, though, a 41.1. He matches it because last lap by, Musial was half a second faster than Clark. He's got about, it looks like maybe 8 or 9 seconds to try and catch up to the class leader there. And I just want to keep an eye on that because if Musial Jr. can be fast enough, we have 28 minutes left. That's not too far away for him to try and pull that in.
I'm going to throw a little knuckleball at you here, Joe. And while you're looking at Musial, I'm actually looking at the car behind him. I'm looking at Daniel Morad, who's just gone purple, 139.5, who's 1.3 seconds faster than Musial Jr. right now. I think that Morad is going to catch the 231 before Musial catches anybody else.
Yeah, even that first sector on this lap was a whole 9/10 quicker for Morad over Musial Jr. in one sector. So yeah, he's coming quickly, and this is what Morad did back at Sebring, is fight his way up through the field, up to the front, and clinch the victory. I think it was something like 2 laps left to go. He made the pass for the lead.
And I think that the bigger battle that Morad has in terms of repeating what you had just mentioned is that Clark has just absolutely run away with it out front. I mean, he's 4 seconds ahead of Charlie Hayes now. And you know what else just popped into the back of my head here? We were reading off, call it about 15, maybe 20 minutes ago, that car number 251 of Charlie Hayes has that 10-second post-race time penalty. You remember that? That's pretty much going to promote Owen Trinkler to that lead in class.
That's a really good point. So, yeah, Charlie's going to have to get a move on here. Unfortunately for him, he is not quicker than Owen that last time by. Oh, look at this coming up and over turn 2. In fact, Charlie Hayes has a lot of pressure from Dumoulin, which again is a car that's a lap down.
And I'm sure that on the radio, Owen Trinkler is saying, hey, you know what, get this car that's a lap down out of the fight right now. This is for a class lead, a class win right now, and I want to go duke it out with Charlie Hayes, but Dumoulin has shown that he is just as fast as this 251 car. It almost might be a repeat performance of when he gets by, he takes off just like we saw Clark.
Yeah, that 234 unfortunately just put on the back foot a little bit early in the race with Dumoulin having so much speed and him being a lap down. All he can do is just kind of watch and hope maybe that we get a full course yellow of some sort to help him get back onto the lead lap. But for now, that is not forthcoming. Some lap traffic, though, might help him get by here.
Yeah, and this is a little bit of a nervous moment for all these cars. They're all going to kind of get stacked up, and they're bumper to bumper to bumper going down into turn number 9. Dumoulin's going to slide it down the inside. Owen Trinkler's going to try to follow him with. It certainly seems like he's got the apex move. Owen Trinkler up into the class lead.
That was fantastic stuff from Owen, using that car as a pick, and he forced his way through. Charlie Hayes could do nothing with that. And he is now demoted down to second in class, third overall. You were wondering about Morad before. That's down to 3 seconds behind Musial Jr. So now that this battle seems to be a bit over, I wonder if we need to turn our attention soon to farther down.
And, I mean, I'm going to try to take a look at the gaps between everybody out here. And Morad is currently 15 seconds behind our overall leader. We've got 25 minutes left. I'm going to check the last lap time of 40.5 out of Clark out front. Daniel Morad at 39.9. So I don't know if a half a second is going to be able to do it.
It's a big ask. That said, Morad is on the podium only right now, and he wants to be on the top step. He's 2 seconds a lap faster than Junior.
And, I mean, it was incredible what he did back at Sebring, right? I mean, we were looking at very similar gaps, and we thought, maybe there's a chance, and he went out there and did it.
And he seemed very confident about it when I talked to him on the podium as well. He said that he didn't have any doubts about being able to overcome that deficit, knowing that he was fast out this weekend and the car was good. But it looks like, once again, they're in that same position. They're going to have to pull a rabbit out of their proverbial hats. Meanwhile, we are watching Dave Musial Jr., who is being chased down. Morad, with the fastest lap of anybody in the course of this race, has cut it down to 1.7 seconds behind.
This trio, and here is Daniel Morad on screen right here, the 260, this red 260 going through turn number 9, Chicane. Is still the fastest car on the racetrack, and we keep saying this gap, it is doable. One of the problems that he's got, these cars in front of him, they are fast cars. I mean, Charlie Hayes, he has not let cars by easily. Owen Trinkler is not going to let a car by easy. It's just how quick can Daniel Morad dispatch of those other cars.
The one thing that he has going for him is that Daniel Morad is perhaps very well known for aggressive moves. So if he has to get his elbows out and get past quickly, I think he is well equipped to do so.
And look at it, he's already cut it down to 1.1 seconds behind Musial. So this is, call it, the first hurdle on the road. He is right there at the top of turn number 3A, chasing Musial down there. And they are catching that group, that three-pack that we have been watching of Dumoulin, Trinkler, and Hayes.
Yeah, Musial Jr. was, let's see, about 0.8 of a second quicker that last lap over Hayes. So it is all accordioning together amongst this big group. There you could see all 5 of them practically in the same shot. They're coming out of turn 6. Who is going to catch who first, and what's going to happen next?
And I mean, huge props to Dave Musial Jr. out there. I mean, he is keeping pace with some of the fastest drivers on the racetrack out here, the pros that we've got that's pretty much have been plopped in the car to anchor these efforts all the way to the end, and he is holding his own.
He has shown improvement since we have seen him join here in Sprint Challenge, and this season has definitely shown that, the way he's been at the sharp end of the field. But he's now been caught by one of the best in a Porsche. Daniel Morad is sizing him up, and he's not quite to where Musial could try and make an attack to sneak away from him going past those cars ahead. It is 1v1 just behind the trio.
And now that is Anna Checki in the Cayman car that they are getting by. That three-pack was able to get by, and then Musial and Morad able to out-accelerate on the front straightaway. Let's see if Daniel Morad makes a move up into turn number 2. If he slots out drivers right, tries to outbrake him up here at the top of the hill. He presented the car, but Musial late on the brakes, able to defend. Where does Morad make the move? The next opportunity is turn 4.
How calm and collected can Dave Musial Jr. stay in this situation? Can he keep from racing his mirrors too much? There's another big look to the inside. The door is shut firmly by the 260 car, or 231 car.
And here's the other factor of this, is that I don't think Morad, there he goes, he's going to slip down to the inside of the carousel. Can he get the car there? Musial's going to stand on the gas, but Morad's right on the quarter panel. He's going to get the drive off, and they are door to door, headed down to turn number 7. Who's the last of the late breakers? Seems pretty even. Morad's going to try to capitalize on the over-under, try to score it on the accelerator. He tries to get there. Musial covers it off for now.
And I got to say, that was good discretion from Morad, because, yeah, he probably could have tried to keep his nose in there, but he backed out, seeing what was going to happen. No use in throwing this away. He knows the speed is there. 21 minutes are left. The opportunities will come.
And here's the thing. Oh, that's a little bit deep into turn 9 for Musial, but actually is able to capitalize on the exit, so I don't think that Morad's going to be close enough here in 11 to make a really, really late lunge, unless he's crazy confident in the performance on the car and just stays right on the racing line. But what I was going to say is that if Musial catches the back of Charlie Hayes, it can kind of alter the dynamic of this. All of a sudden, you're in one giant train.
And let's remind everybody that Dan Clark is our leader that Morad is ideally chasing. But right now, Morad is, I'm showing, 16 seconds behind that leader. Because Dan Clark, once he got through, he's off like a shot. He was being held up big time. And if he is caught, he's going to be thinking back to that battle and wondering if I could have gotten around quicker.
And here's the mentality from Morad right now is that, yes, Musial is for position in class, but if I don't get by him now, I'm not going to be able to catch Daniel Clark.
Yep, so We'll see Morad, no doubt, make a few more attempts here. Is he trying to set himself up better? Because last time he was trying to make a move into this corner, and then that may have compromised his run down the drag strip. This feels like he's got a much better shot as he has a very good run. The 231 covers the middle of the road. A little bit of puddles you can see to the inside that dissuades the 260, who absolutely sails it into the corner.
Wagging the tail going into turn number 7, but what I think was more important was that Morad was kind of faking the move into 7 and backed out of it. The only reason to back out of that move is because Musil is good on the brake pedal pressure, which Morad found out the lap before. So the 231 holding off one of the fastest drivers, or I should say the fastest driver on the track.
There he is again. And as they approach the entry down into 11, he'll just try to cover him off. There was an attempt at getting an over-under, and again, he just about gets underneath, but each time he is rudely denied by Musil Jr. Musil, I think, is still slightly catching up to Hayes, though, even though he's running a compromised line.
And that's the thing, is that he is running a compromised line down to the inside, up over the curb goes Daniel Morad, outbrakes him at the top of the hill at turn number 2, and he moves up to second in class, so the first hurdle accomplished.
A turn 2 surprise there by Daniel Morad, and that will put him up into P2 in the Pro-Am class. Now, Hayes and Trinkler, they are fighting for the lead of the AMs, so they have their own concerns in this one. And aren't really worried about Daniel Morad. But at the same time, Charlie Hayes doesn't want to be separated. He could use Morad as a pick, as we've seen other cars do in this race, but I don't know. This is a hard one if you're the AM leaders.
And I think we still have Dumoulin in between Charlie Hayes and Owen Trinkler, so it's kind of flip-flopped on what it originally was. Just an interesting dynamic, and how hard does Charlie Hayes fight this? I mean, every single car that has come up to this orange 251 has been laps behind it before they finally were able to make a move. Oh, that was really close to the edge of the track from Morad.
He is running 10 tenths, maybe even 11 tenths here today. He tries to use that over-under once again, get the straighter shot off of the chicane, and it works very well. Look at this. He is almost overlapped by the time they come up to the braking. He looks to the inside, down on Charlie Hayes. Hayes does not fight this one as hard, and it looks like Morad has got that one done, and Dumoulin is going to pull out of the way.
Talk about a gift right there, not having to pass a car. And that was interesting because Dumoulin has fought every single lap up to this point except that one.
I wonder if there are some alliances there that maybe have come into play, because that was immediate as soon as that car was behind him. Okay, let's see what the gap is. 1.8 seconds up to Trinkler.
Yeah, that one's still giant question marks in my brain, but you know what? That's okay. They're the ones out there on the racetrack, and Morad has to go up there and pass Owen Trinkler now, and not only pass Owen Trinkler, then salvage 14 and a half seconds that he's got to make up to Dan Clark.
In 16 minutes as well. I think this might be too little too late at this stage. He did a great job in these last couple laps making those passes, but it's the ones before that I think may have been decisive.
I want to agree with you. I really do. But Morad has been able to turn 39s, and I've seen Dan Clark kind of hover in the 40s to 41s. I do feel that time is not on Morad's side. However, if it's a clean racetrack, if the traffic works out for Morad and it doesn't work out for Clark, we could see a little bit of a shift.
And that's a good point, because as you can see, we do have the Cayman traffic that Morad just had to navigate there. So if it, like you said, if it works out better for Morad, then maybe, but this is assuming he catches a second per minute, essentially here, not per lap.
Well, yeah, no, I guess so.
Because we're not doing 1 minute laps here.
Yep. It was at one point a second per lap, and now to your point, it has gone even further than that he has to make up.
Yeah, it's just too little time at this stage that he has got to work with, but it is all still up in the air. Here's Owen Trinkler, and Owen Trinkler shows him a little bit of an opening. You don't have to give that opportunity twice to Morad. He is through immediately.
And that one makes a little bit more sense just because it is not for class position at all out there. And now this is our leader up here, Dan Clark in the 240. Of course, Blake McGovern did a fantastic job to start this race, led this entire stint, and then handed it over to the 240. And once he's been in this car, he has been an absolute rocket ship, especially once he got by Charlie Hayes a while back.
Still a fair bit of oversteer into turn 7 there. And you made a very good point about Trinkler being in that other class, because he's got 3 seconds over Hayes. I think he could afford to give up a little time so that he doesn't lose more in trying to battle that second place Pro-Am driver. Watching the onboard view of Dan Clark, they finished in second last race. They want to do one better and take the win.
Remember how I said those varying lap times? So Morad last time 39.7, Dan Clark a 42.2. That's 2.5 seconds that Daniel Morad cut out of Dan Clark's lead just that previous lap. So you just got to pay attention. This thing ain't over yet, but you know what? We just had a response out of Dan Clark up top. I wonder if they're playing chess out there.
Yeah, his team probably let him know the situation. Morad set a purple third sector. So, yeah, he is going very, very quick right now. Now that things have finally eased up, a couple other things that I would like to mention about this whole ecosystem we were talking about, that Morgan Burkhardt, who's been racing at times in the Porsche Cayman 718 for CSM and the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge Championship. He also comes from this Porsche background. And then, of course, Tom Sargent. He won his debut in the European Le Mans Series in Barcelona today. So there's two more that have found themselves with great success thanks to this. I would call it a school, basically, that Porsche has set up.
It's pretty cool, the ladder systems that a lot of these manufacturers have, but I think Porsche really is the one to kind of take the stage with it all and really put it on full display, not only just junior programs, but also female driver programs, the one-make programs getting up into the other series. I mean, a lot of other manufacturers, you kind of get one or the other. Porsche really encompasses the entire form of motorsports, all the way from the club racing level to the tippy top of Le Mans.
All right, we're going to get another lap time here. I've been kind of watching the sectors. It's close-ish, but I think Morad with a slight edge recently. This latest lap, not a personal best from Clark, but still a 40.4. It's within range, but I think that's about half a second slower than what he did last time, I believe.
It was about half a second. It was a 39.9, but Morad just crossed the line at a 40.0, so about 0.4 of a second faster than what Dan Clark was able to do out front. Owen Trinkler, actually, once he slotted in behind Morad, just had his personal fastest lap at a 140 as well. So the two fastest cars on the racetrack, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. Andy Lee is the fastest car on the racetrack. The other two are our top two.
Well, yeah, Andy Lee just reset that fastest lap of the race down to a 39.2. I noticed that a little bit earlier, that he had that purple mark there you see on your tower. That implies that he has the fastest lap of the race, and it's been sitting there for quite some time. But he has unfortunately come into the car a little bit far down the order, so he's had a lot to make up to catch that group.
I'm sure that his co-driver will probably be looking back at this one saying, you know what, if I'd kept it clean for Andy, we'd be in a great spot out front, especially with one of the fastest cars towards the end. But this is a fantastic battle here on the racetrack. Charlie Hayes hanging on to it.
Oh!
Dave Musial makes contact, just locks up in turn number 7, and definitely forces Charlie Hayes wide. I'm sure that will be taken a look at.
No doubt.
Charlie Hayes is not happy about it.
No, he's trying to come back at him. There may be some words exchanged here. He's going to actually almost get that position right back as he chops across his bow and retakes the spot. Now Chris Hutter, or not Chris Hutter, but Thomas, I believe, is coming along in the 281, and he takes the spot.
Yeah, that's going to demote Musial down off of the podium. Jared Thomas up into third in class. A great racecraft move while those two were scrapping it out. Jared Thomas just said, yep, I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Wow. And that puts Thomas on the podium as well. Meanwhile, Morad has reset that fastest lap that Lee just picked up. 1:39.1, about a tenth faster.
I do think I'm with you, Joe. Time is just a little bit not on the JDX Racing side right now. It is going to take some miracles for Morad to go up and catch our overall leader as this battle continues to be fantastic. It is not necessarily for a class position, but Musial duking it out with another great driver on the track.
This is for 5th overall, for those wondering about that, between Musial in the multicolored car and the orange machine belonging to Charlie Hayes. And I wonder if Morad's going to reset that fastest lap again, because he just went, the 231 of Musial has a stop plus 30, and I think he may have just got that message because he's backed off of this battle. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by that. He kind of sent it in hard and got into the side of our second place AM car.
And, you know, it's frustrating as a driver because you're trying to make that pass. You've been stuck behind a car for a while, and you maybe got in a little bit deep. And, yes, it was a mistake, right? I don't think that Musial purposely went in there and door blasted Charlie Hayes. And then to get the penalty on top of it, you just have to put yourself in the right mindset and shake it off and just forget it all.
Well, that will separate them for sure once he serves that penalty. As we look back to Dan Clark, gap down to 11.1 seconds between them. But this time it was another fastest lap from Morad. He goes down to a 39.0, and it was only through that first sector that he did that.
Down to under 11 seconds between himself and Clark. I can say that Musial Jr. is in pit road right now. That's going to promote Andy Lee. That's probably going to promote Dumoulin here once he catches up. Actually, you know what? That one might not happen, but Andy Lee for sure moves up into 4th in class. And I was also noticing that Andy is not far behind Charlie Hayes, and Charlie's still not far behind Jared Thomas as well. And we were making comments about how fast Andy Lee was on track.
Yeah, you're right. It's about, it looks like 5 seconds between Lee and Thomas currently, and his lap times are roughly a second a lap faster. That could be enough to get him in there, but he's going to have to make quick work of Charlie Hayes.
Now, just kind of reading the track in front of our overall leader, I see maybe one of the Caymans kind of accelerating down towards turn number 11 right now, but after that, it seems like Dan Clark is going to have a very, very clean windshield without much to deal with.
Can we also give love to the 62 in this race, because we've talked so much about this cup battle because it's been thrilling, but remember what happened with Bill Pelichowski on lap 1? Back of the field. Now his teammate Davis is leading the way, and it is a handy minute and 9 seconds.
I mean, Andrew Davis is a classic pro. He's going to be one of the best to put in these cars. And now we get our double box shot of Daniel Morad on top. He's the one who is hunting down Daniel Clark, the onboard shot on the bottom right part of your screen. And something else that I was just going to make a notice of, I mean, Andrew's lap times, talking about Andrew Davis, the driver you were just talking about, Joe Peak, 3 seconds faster than anybody else in class.
Woo. In fact, he is only a couple seconds slower than our cup cars. And Morad, by the way, set another fastest lap. I'm trying to remember how many fastest laps in a row he's now up to, because it's definitely been a few, and he's got it down to 9 seconds.
Do you think they need to paint the car purple?
Maybe. Maybe. He's got that bright red on it, and it is very identifiable, but maybe that'll give him the last few tenths that he'll need to win round 3.
And I feel that in the case of Dan Clark, it's just turning consistent laps, right? Do not make any sort of mistakes. Yes, Daniel Morad is catching you. Yes, he is turning faster laps than you. Just don't make any sort of mistakes to exacerbate that and make it all of a sudden shrink even faster.
Want to touch on the rest of our podium in the Caymans. Anna Checki with a great second place with her dad. And Taylor Van Overbeek in the 98, joining Drowan and dragging that car up to a third place finish despite being in the barriers at one stage.
That's a great point as well, because Dan Drowan definitely had his ups and downs, not only in today's race, but also in the qualifying session earlier today. There goes Morad around Andrew Davis, that Cayman overall leader that we were mentioning in that Nerds machine that took over the car from Pelichowski.
So our leader in one class, second in the other, just overtaking one another. 8.7 seconds we're seeing between Clark and Morad. personal best first sector for Clark. He is still hustling, although he has been slower. Looks like Morad did not set the fastest lap last time by, so there breaks that streak finally. And yet another of our Cayman cars just trying to patiently stay out of the way. They're not in a direct race right now. They just also need to do what Clark does and just complete these racing laps.
Might not have been purple fastest lap, but was still the fastest race car on the racetrack. There's only 2 cars turning sub 130s right now, and it's this car that we're watching and Andy Lee.
So as he goes through the S's, Clark is just coming through the chicane ahead of him. He hasn't quite got visual on him yet. We're down to 4 minutes left to go.
I will say, just visually watching Morad, though, he is using more of the racetrack than what he was. I mean, he was almost in the dirt in that turn 9 chicane, and it wasn't because of an overshoot. He was just shortening the track.
I think maybe some of those curbs have dried up enough that he can start to push it, or he feels like it's worth it. Personal best for Clark with a 39.7. That's a little bit closer to what Morad has been doing, but still not faster. Although it matches Morad, they were within 0.06 of a second.
That's exactly what the Kelly Moss driver wants to hear right now, is matching the second place times. That means he is hitting his marks, limiting the mistakes. And I can tell you, remember how we were mentioning Andy Lee and Jared Thomas? They're now down to 2.5 seconds with 3 minutes remaining.
I love that this is the second race we've had a Dan v. Dan situation for the win of this race.
Or a Greg v. Greg.
Yeah, exactly. It seems to play itself out in that way often in this series. Back down through turn 6, Morad has it less than 8 seconds away. He was quicker by half a second, more than half a second through that first sector. We have been watching this like a hawk. It's just unfortunate that things have not looked like they are heading his way. Meanwhile, the 62 comfortably up ahead, 1 minute and 13 over Anicheki.
Andrew Davis is doing a fantastic job right here. You had mentioned just really climbed up through the order ever since he got in the car after having, how many times did we see that windshield with Pelichewski and you couldn't see out of the thing? And then they plop Andrew Davis in the car, probably clean that thing off, and it has been a rocket ship ever since.
Do we have an onboard? Can we see if it's looking better with that number 62? It does offboard seem like they've cleaned it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is much clearer. I think Bill wishes it looked like that.
I think the nerds probably hopped out of the vents, got the paper towels out, and cleaned that thing off during the pit stop.
So as we watch that 62 tick yet one more lap off, I think they are going to be plenty happy with these results. They took the win last time at Sebring. They're going to make it 2 for 2. We also hear that it should be white flag next time by.
And this is the 75 car. This is Justin Lewis. He is leading that Cayman AM class. And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, he is soloing this one.
You are correct. And yeah, I think he probably wishes he did have someone to race more in Todd Rutura and Taglioni. But I don't think he's going to look a gift horse in the mouth and being able to take a class win in this race. And what a great job doing this full 1 hour and 40 minutes on his own. And actually beating one of the Pro-Ams, we should point out. So there is something to cheer about in him taking a very effective race.
Jumping back up to Dan Clark. He is going through turn number 9 right now. Still maintains roughly a 7-second lead over second place, the JDX Racing Machine of Daniel Morad. But look at that clock. We are under 1 minute remaining. We are going to be getting the white flag this time by.
I can see the flag stand preparing it and now waving it for Daniel Clark. Down to 7 seconds between himself and Morad. It is a case of what could have been for the 260, but this 240 team has really grabbed this with both hands. You see the gloves through the windscreen. He is still wheeling that thing.
Certainly seems like this racetrack is still a bit slippery, right? It's been rained on all weekend long, and this is really the longest stretch that it has been dry. So I have a feeling that water probably washed off a lot of the rubber that had been built up on the racetrack, and now we're in the process of laying it back down. So yeah, the cars, they still look a little bit slippery out there.
This is it's not quite the driest I think it has been, because we had plenty of dry running on Friday as well for the Sprint Challenge series that preceded this. But this is some of the sunniest weather we have seen all weekend, albeit it is still cool. 59 degrees Fahrenheit out there right now. So springtime still working its way towards the warmer edges of the season as he comes through turn 8 down to the chicane for the final time.
And, you know, this is not what you want to see. Now, I know he's got a 7-second lead, but he probably wants to dispatch of these cars, and he just had Musial go off directly in front of him. That's going to be a little bit of a hazard with mud on the racetrack, but Dan Clark is able to get by him.
No problem for the 240. He'll exit down towards the braking of the final hairpin here at turn 11. Daniel Clark and Blake McGovern, they didn't win back at Sebring, but they get their revenge today, as here in California, they will win race 2 in the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America.
And what a comeback drive. Daniel Morad is going to finish in second place in that JDX racing machine. Almost a deja vu of what happened at Sebring. And now we just wait patiently for Owen Trinkler and that Vintage Racing Company.
I think he should be coming around pretty shortly here. What a run up to the front for that 268. And we also have our win for Andrew Davis and Bill Pelichowski. They just crossed the line and took the win in the Cayman Pro-Ams. Behind them, Owen Trinkler will win in the 268 for the Cup Pro-Ams.
Now we just wait for everybody else to come across the line and finish out their race. What a race there for Justin Lewis. He claims the win in that Cayman Am class, and now just maybe 1 or 2 more cars to cross the line. There goes Yves Baltis, as well as now Henry Marshall is going to be crossing the line. I'll go ahead and read through our official results after one heck of a Porsche Endurance Challenge race. There goes Henry Marshall across the line in that HM Road Racing machine. Our overall winner in GT3 Cup is going to be Dan Clark and Blake McGovern. In second place is going to be Daniel Morad. In third and winning his class is going to be in Owen Trinkler in that VRC racing machine. Andy Lee finishes fourth overall, third in class. He grabs a podium after getting by Jared Thomas. So that did happen. Jared Thomas slips down to what is fifth place overall. Charlie Hayes maintains the podium in their class in second. Dave Musial Jr., I'm going to go ahead and read off the overall results from here, finishes in seventh with Dumoulin back here in eighth. Alexander going to finish in ninth with Henry Marshall in 10th. That is our GT3 Cup results. And then it goes over to our Cayman results. Andrew Davis and Bill Pelichowski taking the win in Cayman Pro-Am. Anna Checki, Greg Checki claiming second place in class. And then also Dan Drowan and Taylor Van Overbeek claiming third in that Pro-Am class. Justin Lewis is your winner in the Cayman Amateurs. And that's also fourth overall in class. Yves Baltis going to finish in fifth overall as well. But if you're watching on the stream, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with our post-race celebrations.
Experience the ultimate thrill, Porsche GT Track Day, where passion meets performance on some of North America's most legendary racetracks. Designed exclusively for Porsche owners, this is your chance to unleash the full potential of your vehicle in a motorsport environment. Drive the same circuits as professional racers, on the same weekend as Porsche Sprint Challenge events. Where will your Porsche take you? With limited space, every Porsche GT Track Day ensures a premium, exclusive experience. You'll get nearly 3 hours of track time, starting with reconnaissance laps, progressing through lead-follow sessions, and culminating in exhilarating open laps. Plus, strap in for heart-pounding hot laps with a professional race driver.
I thought I was fast. Didn't resemble anything that I've ever done.
Beyond the track, immerse yourself in VIP hospitality, premium viewing areas, and exclusive paddock access where you can witness Porsche Sprint Challenge teams in action. Spots are limited. Scan the QR code now to reserve your place at Porsche GT Track Day.
We have our overall winners, Dan Clark and Blake McGovern, here with us. Guys, amazing job. Blake, you had to start this thing off. It looked like it was pretty tricky conditions out there.
Yeah, it was wet out there, ever-changing conditions, but luckily throughout the week at the sprint races, got quite a bit of experience with that. Yesterday in the sprint race, it was very similar, where it started wet and dried out throughout the race. So kind of knew what we were getting ourselves into and knew we were going to be pretty quick in those conditions. So I think it worked in our favor, and we were able to run a clean race, and it all worked out in the end.
And Dan, you got to hop onto some slicks there. How did the car feel once you did that?
Yeah, that was the earliest call we could make for slicks. Still wasn't perfect. Same for everybody. It was a lot of slipping around and figuring things out. The weather has changed so much this weekend. Blake's been here with Sprint Challenge and was on the podium yesterday, and we were having a dry session and a wet session and a dry session. So to jump out there for both of us and do the drive that Blake did, really did a lot of heavy lifting there and just stayed really calm the whole time, which was fantastic. Really props to Blake, and yeah, just kind of held on, figured it out a little bit at the end there, and KMR guys have done a fantastic job. Raiders really quick enough to win, and glad that we can get the double for them with the 718 as well.
Well, again, congratulations to both of you. It was fantastic to watch and an exciting race.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll try and find some of our other winners. In the meantime, let's head back up to Joey.
What a fantastic endurance challenge race we have had here at Sonoma Raceway. It has been a wet weekend all the way throughout most of the sprint challenge races, and then of course the blue sky opened up for us here in the endurance challenge race. And don't go anywhere. We still have more post-race celebrations with more driver interviews. Just to let everybody know, our next Porsche Challenge event is actually going to be in May, the first weekend of May 8th, 9th, 10th, down there at COTA at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And if this weekend is any sort of preview for what the action's going to be down there in Texas, everything seems to be bigger and better in Texas, and I can't wait to see the racing that it comes back with. And it certainly seems like we're ready with Joe Peak and more post-race interviews with our winners, I believe, over in the Cayman class.
And our winners in the Cayman Pro-Am, so we've got Andrew Davis and Bill Pelichewski. Bill, let's start off with you. That first lap, that was quite interesting, wasn't it?
It was. We had actually a traction control issue, so it was malfunctioning, and as a result, it caused a little drama a lot of places. And the first lap was won, and it was a bit of a challenge to drive through it, but we were able to do it. So I was happy with what happened. And obviously, Andrew is my coach, but driver, he really finished it up. But it was very tricky conditions. They had to power cycle the car, do a whole bunch of things. So Kelly Moss did a great job, but it was required a little bit of work to reset everything because it was a little fascinating to drive it.
And Andrew, you not only had clear road in front of you, but at least a clear windscreen. I bet you're happy that got cleaned off.
No doubt. First I got to say, Bill did a superb job in his stint with the problem we had. We did have an electrical issue with the car, which actually continued on during my stint, not to the same extent, because we formed a plan as a team. We added about 4 or 5 different things to that pit stop that we had not practiced. And I cannot say enough about the Kelly Moss crew. We got it all done. No pit timer, so we had a redundant pit timer going on hand. We had to do 4 different things that we hadn't done before. I had to power cycle the car. I got Dan to wash the windscreen because I saw how bad the view was out of Bill's video. And I just got to say, this was a team win for sure. Bill kept us cool, drove a car that wasn't great. The pit stop got us back up front. And just what a great series to run in, and what an awesome day.
It was a recovery of a century. Enjoy the victory.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We've got just a couple more interviews to go. We'll see if we can find some more down here.
And that was Bill Pelichewski and Andrew Davis that Joe Peak was just interviewing. Of course, our winners in that Cayman Pro-Am class. And what they were mentioning that Kelly Moss road racing team was able to overcome was pretty incredible to have to adapt into that pit stop, especially after one of the drivers was maybe feeling a little bit of an issue, was able to talk with it over the radio, and then the team during that pit stop was able to prepare for those issues, come up with a plan like you heard Andrew Davis say, and get the car fixed back up and then out on the racetrack. And then Andrew Davis persevered through some more of those issues like you heard him say, and then ultimately came away with the class win. So we've already talked with Blake McGovern and Dan Clark in the 240. We've also talked with Bill Pelichewski and Andrew Davis in the number 62. We still have the GT3 Cup podium winners from Vintage Racing Company. That's going to be Owen Trinkler and Dan Ammon. And then we also have our Cayman Am winner of Justin Lewis, as we are finding them down there in the Victory Circle area by the podiums. Just waiting on Joe Peak and one of our wonderful camera ops, Matt Borders, as he's more likely known as Bordy behind the scenes here. Big time shout out to Bordy, is still going through all of our drivers here, and it certainly seems like Joe Peak is grabbing some more of our winners, and it seems like we're going to toss it back down to him.
We have Dan Ammon and Owen Trinkler who win in the GT3 Cup AM category. Obviously, you guys had a little bit different rules on how the pit stops could go. Who made the call to try and go a little earlier on those slicks?
The team is a team decision. Dan was giving us feedback in the car. He drove a great stint, drove great all weekend. We finally got that monkey off our back. We've been quick all year, and finally to get first place here and third overall. Really happy for the team. Ryan, our engineer, back was on the headset bars like Skype or Zoom call with us and stuff, and told us what we need to do. And what a great day for us at Vintage Racing Company. And Dan drove a great job today.
You absolutely did, Dan. And you guys not only finished on the top step of the podium in your class, but you finished well up overall. That's got to be something to be proud of.
Yeah, it's good. It's been honestly a bit of a rough start to the year for us. We've had a bunch of stuff happen to us that's been beyond our control, so it's good to finally put one together for the team. Team did an awesome job, and yeah, it's just good to be on the top step again. So that's the team deserves it. Owen drove great, and it's good to have it all come together.
We love seeing the turnaround. Soak it in, guys. And then finally we have Justin Lewis, who was a solo effort. Justin, we were watching your progress out there. Not only did you win your class, but you beat one of the Pro-Am cars. That's got to feel good, too.
I had no idea, actually. I was just kind of turning my laps out there. Struggled to find pace, definitely. I mean, as a newer driver, I will say my skill set from going from like full rain to a relatively dry track wasn't that great. Took me a little while to adjust. Found a little pace finally, and kind of like yesterday, honestly, with these conditions, I feel like keeping it consistent and staying out of trouble is like half the battle. So I just kind of did that throughout and was happy to see where I ended up.
Now, it was not only rainy, it was quite muddy. Is your dirt bike days come in handy out there?
I don't know, man. I mean, there's knobs on those tires. Definitely not knobs on these, and I think we might have had a little too much air in them too. So definitely past the chicane there. I mean, every time, you could just whip the car out if you wanted to. So I was actually just kind of laughing, though, at the amount of mud on the track, cars with mud all over them. I felt right at home. Maybe just 20 lower in the PSI and some good knobs. So.
Well, awesome job winning the AM category here in the Caymans, and enjoy the victory.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Up next, we will have the podium ceremonies here in the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America.
Welcome back to Sonoma Raceway. We had a wonderful weekend of racing, of not only Sprint Challenge racing on both Friday and Saturday and Endurance Challenge on Sunday. The next Endurance Challenge event is going to be over at Road America August 15th, 16th weekend. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you at the next one at COTA.